Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another crafting video for you. I thrifted this frame a while back and the cornered designs here remind me of seashells. And Summerween has been a trending topic, so I figured let me try to make a craft that was summer related but also Halloween related. So that's what we're gonna do today. Most of this project is going to be made out of this moldable plastic. And here is my little sketch of what I'm doing. If you can't tell, it's a mermaid tail. It's in the thumbnail, so you should know what we're making already. So yeah, seashells, water, summer. I thought mermaid, and then put that Halloween spin on it. Skeleton. So we're making a little skeleton mermaid little situation. So I have heated up some water here, and I'm going to put my moldable plastic in there to soften so I can use it to mold our skeleton. I've used this in the past. It was in one of the videos, one of my potion videos, where I used it to make little mini mushrooms. It's very easy to work with in a way. So I put a bunch in here because I figured I'd need a bunch for this project. I would suggest only putting a little bit at a time because I had a problem with it, not wanting to, I guess, there was so much product, so much stuff in there that I didn't want to soften as quickly as it did if you only put a little bit in it. So it ended up resulting in this texture, which made it hard to mold, and there was little balls in it. But to me, this kind of looks like fish eggs, and mermaids are fishes, kind of, right? So I decided to try to make some faux fish egg things to put on the side of the frame. I may or may not use them. This was just an idea because this was a cool looking texture that doesn't work for molding and sculpting our bones, but just looked cool because all the little beads and whatever. But yeah, this is not what we want to actually use to shape things because it leaves little balls and it doesn't stretch and it doesn't whatever. So I made my little fish eggs things for the side, and then I just took tinier pieces and threw them in the hot water. Okay, now we can move on to actually molding our fin. So here's my little crappy sketch of what I want to do, just an base idea. And so I'm starting off with the little vertebrae columns. And so I'm just taking a small piece of that moldable plastic and I'm rolling a oval in my hands. The first one's a little trial and error because, I'm just starting it. But I figured out throughout the process to start with an oval. I use a pin or Sharpie in this case to kind of puncture dents, deep dent holes on the side of it. So that's where your rib cage part will go in. And then I kind of did a dent with my knuckle. Oh my gosh, my fiance. Then I did because my cat was kept bumping the camera. That's why he was trying to get her. Yep, that's why the camera's moving. She was headbutting my camera. But yeah, see, I'm using my knuckle to kind of get the bottom of that skull to give it, because it's not, I don't want a straight square. I want a little bit of dent in it to resemble a vertebrae as best as I can. And so yeah, just start off as an oval, start flattening it up to more of a square shape with dents in the side. That's my best explanation. And then I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And they just get smaller and smaller as they go. So here's a little reference picture of what I'm doing. As you see, I'm doing the little columns in the middle, not including the little spikes. We're not there yet. So I did the first one, moving on to the second one, and then you'll see me start using smaller materials, items, to make the little dents in there, because as they're smaller, you don't want to have big dents in them. And so I just go, and then I end up using the tiny sewing needle, not super tiny, it's a big sewing needle, to make my little dents in my little ones. Now we're moving on to those spikes you see in the middle of the column. I just pretty much cut out little triangles with the scissors and then used my fingers to round out the edges so they weren't super pointy triangle. And I made basically little shark fins. And yeah, just they get smaller as you go. They weren't like uniform, the same like shape really, but like I said, they're bones. I don't think bones are uniform to begin with, so that's just me making the little shark fins and the vertebrae. Okay, next, as you can see in this picture, I am making that little triangle thing in the middle, which is going to hold all of our bones for our fin at the end of the mermaid tail. And I'm making it the same way, sort of, as the little shark fins on top of the vertebrae. I'm just cutting a triangle and shaping it, except I'm making this one a lot more pointier on the tip than round. Now we're shifting off to making our bones that go on, literally, which make the fin, that make the little part of the actual tail. All the other bones in our creation here. It was a lot of trial and error. I have a lot of wonky shapes. Some of them I just kept because I did not want to keep trying to make shapes anymore. But I found out the best way to do this is to take a chunk of the material and start rolling it into a ball, and then roll that ball into like a fat sausage. And then you roll that fat sausage until you get the end of that sausage the width that you want your base to be. So that round part you see, and the, like, you know, the little things you see there that look like little rib cages, that little round part, you just keep rolling that little sausage until you get that to be as big of a bead as you want. And then you start slowly pulling it. And so that's how you get that nice tapered end. It can be a little difficult. Sometimes you pull it and it will just keep pulling and it'll just keep pulling. Sometimes it won't pull at all, and then you get weird shapes. And that's why it's just a bunch of trial and error. You just keep pulling it. You don't like that shape? Do it again. Pull it again. So it was a lot of that. I don't really know how else to explain that except for showing you. So that's how I did all those, and I just did them in multiple sizes. And now we're moving on to gluing our vertebrae together. And by glue, I am using this quick set resin that I got on Amazon. And then I'm using that light that I got from a Wizarding Trunk box, my most recent one, I believe. So I'm taking that resin, putting it on the end, and I'm gluing 3 of them together flat. So I'm just putting the resin on, one side, sticking it together, and then holding the light there. And that was a lot of holding. This editing is super speed because I was there most of the time just holding the light. And so I do that, make sure the front is set, and then I flip it over and then make sure the other one is set. So those 3, I think, are set flat. And then I take this smaller one and I raise it up a little bit so that one's not staying flat. And so that way our tail can come out of the frame and is not flat up against the frame. And then when I finally get it in its place where it's set, kind of, leaning up, I go ahead and turn it around and I set the back. Oh yeah, I was having a little trouble on it. It fell off, and so that's why I have this crappy angle because I just had to hold it and hope for the best. And so now we're moving on to the even smaller vertebrae that is going to be up, and I stuck it on the end of that needle to hold it in place because trying to hold that little tiny thing with my fingernails was not working. So I have that little needle shoved in there, and then good thing that's resin because it's hard enough, I was able to yank it out. So now that all the vertebrae are stuck together, I'm going to put that little triangle, that long triangle I made on the top, which is going to hold all of our fin bones. So I gotta make sure that one is nice and covered in resin so that won't fall off. And then we're going to put on our little shark fins on the vertebrae, make them actually start looking like vertebrae versus like little bones, like little, I don't know what they look like right now, but make them look more like vertebrae. So I needed tweezers for this also because my nails, just those little things are so tiny, I couldn't get them on there. And so we're just gluing on our little shark fins. Alright, now that our base is done, I have pulled out all of the little bone things I made, little bone rib cage things I made, and I'm kind of just organizing them to which ones I think would work best for the fin and which ones I would think would work best for the bones on the vertebrae. Don't mind the length. I do end up clipping them. I just more on width, which ones girth size that I think match. So it's just a lot of rearranging and just guessing which ones I think look best or fit better in the little holes I made on the side. And then I went ahead and started cutting them to the size that I thought was great. I kind of messed up on one of them and I had to improvise with one I had made that I left to the side, so it looks a little ugly, but it's not that bad. I'm not even going to point it out, but I'm cleaning my glass now so that I can stick on our vertebrae. So I put some resin on the bottom of the vertebrae and then just stuck it in the middle of our glass. Good thing that it's glass, so I straightened it. It was a little wibble wobbly, but good thing that's glass because I can take that black light and put it right under there to set that resin. So it just kind of works. So now that it's set, I put it back in its frame so that I can put the bottom little vertebrae things down so I can see how high they need to go so that they don't hit the frame. So once I kind of figure out where that goes, I'm going to go ahead and see which one I like fits better in the holes. And then we'll just put resin on the end of the vertebrae and just stick it in there and set it with the light. Right here, you'll see me grab the other vertebrae that's going to go on the other side, and that is just so I can tell how high I want the bones to be. Putting them together just made me see it a lot better of how I want the placement, so I would suggest that too. And I would also suggest putting a piece of paper or something under or next to the vertebrae to catch extra resin that drips, so you don't have dripped resin setting on your glass like I did, and I have like pools of resin on the bottom that set in the glass that I can't get off. I figured that out later in the project, but better sooner than later. But it's alright, it's not that bad. Okay, I'm leaving this in here because this was an absolute disaster, this greenery. Initially, I wanted a pirate map to be the background of this piece, but due to hurricane, we still don't have internet at the house, and so I can't get the printer to connect to the computer to print out an image. And so I thought, oh, this little green stuff would look like seaweed. Absolute disaster. I just set it with resin. It wouldn't fit in the frame. Absolute disaster. Don't recommend. So now I'm painting this frame silver. It's a very crappy paint job, but don't worry because it's going to be like a faux patina. So it's alright. It's a little crappy. Just kind of covering that whole frame with this silver paint. It fell in the fucking... Oh, excuse me. As you see, I'm still frustrated about this. I added glue. The glue didn't work. I did resin. The resin didn't dry. I tried to let it set through the... I mushed it down, trying to make it set. It would not set because it's just too much, you know. Absolute disaster. It didn't fit in the frame anyways. So this was my plan B because I couldn't print out my pirate map. And so I had this like constellation thing, and I'm like, well, constellations, you follow constellations in the ocean for stars and stuff, right? So I picked out this one with the circles because it kind of reminds me of like a submarine kind of echolocation kind of thing. You know what I mean? The little circle with a beep, beep, beep. I don't know. That's what it reminded me of. I know it's still about stars, but it is what it is. So moving on to our silver frame, the silver has dried on there, and now I'm taking some blue, like this Tiffany blue color, and then this darker moss green color. And I'm just kind of stippling the entire frame with this color. I do think it's too much green in the beginning, so I do add more blue to even it out. But yeah, just kind of stipple, and then I'm taking the napkin and just blotting it to pull off some of that paint so it's not so opaque and it leaves a very interesting texture. So we're going back in with that blue because I think a patina is more of a blue color with a little bit of a green undertone. And so yeah, we're just gonna stipple and pat and stipple and pat until I like the way it comes out. So this is what we're working with so far with my little echolocation background. I think the little faux patina looks pretty nice, and now I'm getting all my bones situated to finally set. So same-o, we're just putting resin on the end of the bone, and I'm just holding it where I think I want it to stay, and we're hitting it with that light to set it. I'm keeping the frame on just so I know how high it is and I don't do it too low. And plus, I don't think I could put it back in the frame if I didn't have it there. You know what I mean? Especially when I put the tail on. So do it in your frame because the glass is going to stay in that frame forever for the most part. So here we are, just putting all of our bones in, picking which ones I think look the best in there, and setting them with the light. And the same thing basically goes for the tail, except I don't have little dents and holes in the vertebrae to stick them in. They're just pressed up against that triangle I made. So literally resin is the only thing keeping this baby on. So I put a good amount of resin, and this is when I finally decided I should probably put paper down because resin is going to drip. So I kind of loaded it up with resin, stuck it on there, and then I think I even put more resin on top as it set, or even after. I think even after, when I completed it, I put more resin on top just so that I made sure it was secure. And then yeah, I pretty much just left the light there so it would set. That's what a lot of it is I would leave the light there while I got something else ready or whatever. And yeah, it's just a lot of just putting it in your place, putting the resin there, make sure you're holding it still and exactly in the place you want it until it sets, and then you can let it go and let it set the rest of the way. But yeah, very time consuming. It's not that difficult, but it's very time consuming. So we are coming to the end of this project. I didn't know if I wanted those little egg things on my frame, so I didn't paint them on camera. I eventually do stick them on there, but I wasn't sure at the time, so I didn't film it. And my fiance was gracious enough to print out a pirate map at his job for me, so I was able to get a pirate map in there. So this is what it looks like now, before I add all the other stuff, and let's just get into the final reveal.